Could a top 2026 quarterback be committing to the Knights? We're also going to get into some college football 25 and why some of the lists they released yesterday are horrible. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I am your host, Sean Green. Before we get started, as always, a quick word from our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball, golf, soccer, right to all the top fights in UFC/MMA and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on the game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. Nick, we got a lot of comments on last week's video, which I somewhat expected. We have a couple things to talk about this week, but I will say Florida fans came to your defense a little bit towards the end of the week, but I think that 80% of the people that watched, I think, agreed with what I was saying, if you read some of the comments from last week's episode.
Hashtag never read the comments. Ever.
They were mostly UCF fans, but to their credit, there were some Florida fans that I again, like I said, said that they were agreeing with me, which I appreciated.
I'm honored to have some fans that agree with me. That's great. No, I love the interest on the video. I saw that. I was watching the video, like the video analytics of it, and I did notice it felt like later, like as recently within the last couple days, like the Florida fan base found the video, and clearly started commenting and stuff. Or I'm assuming so. I saw that there was a more of a number of comments within the last few days, and the views on the video had spiked. So we'll take it. We'll take it.
That was always the mission, just to get Florida fans upset.
And by the way, I'm done reading the comments after the whole BYU debacle. No more after that.
That's probably
no more after that.
Probably smart.
Me and the BYU fan base apparently just can't get along. And then, did I ever tell you that? Speaking of I know we're so off track, but hold on. Remember, did I ever tell you that whenever it was March Madness season, I picked like a full BYU to go to the Final Four, or no, to the Elite Eight?
I think you told me that off air.
This happened. This was literally like a month after the BYU fan base collectively just came after me and like angry DM'd me on Twitter, and then I decided to ride them to the Elite Eight on my March Madness, and they got eliminated right away.
Yeah,
so, me and BYU don't mix. Oil and water.
You tried to reconcile and they screwed you.
Didn't work out.
So you have to move on. Luckily, football plays them, so I am so excited for that week where we play them in football, where all the Cougars fans will come onto the pod, and the goal is 100 comments that week about how we don't know anything. So I'm looking forward to that week. But before we get into the top 2026 quarterback that I'm excited, it's a big deal. It's not nothing's official yet. But, again, it could be huge. We'll get into it. Obviously, Malik Cunningham, a name that people were assuming was tied to UCF for the 2025 class. He's committing today. Looks like he's going to be going to Maryland. But I really quickly wanted to bring up the NCAA offense defense rankings. I know the team rankings are getting released today, but as you guys know, we always record a day early. So we're recording Thursday, which is yesterday. So we just saw the offense and defensive rankings. Now, UCF, I'll give my quick take. Obviously, I think UCF should be higher on the offensive rankings. I get it's only. I had somebody tweet me, Nick, and basically said, I don't care. Like, I care. Let me see if I find the actual tweet. At Dawn_UCF. Said it has no bearing on our actual offense. This is what I care about. And he says, it's a video game. I don't care at all what EA ranks anything, just my 2 cents. Valid. It is a video game.
Yep.
And it will have no bearing on the offense in real life. But it has a bearing on my sanity when I play the video game. So no, I think for the most part, UCF is ranked okay. I'm glad they are in a top 25 ranking for offense in the game. I don't agree that teams like SMU and Memphis are ahead of UCF. I get they're the same overall, but to put them ahead of UCF on a ranking is ridiculous. And there's a lot of teams that were left out of the offensive ranking. I think Colorado, at 8 is absolutely ridiculous. They're a good offense, but they're not the number 8 offense in the country. And then defensively, again, there's a lot of issues with the defense. I think Iowa is criminally underrated on the defensive ranking they've got. And my biggest issue, I know you have a couple more teams, but listen, there was no way we're seeing UCF in the top 25 defensive rankings, okay? There was no chance that was happening. But to put Colorado in the top 25 of defense in the game is absolutely ridiculous when you look at their defensive rankings.
You know what it probably is? Travis Hunter is... have they unveiled the overalls for the players yet, or no?
No, I think that's coming in July.
Okay. Well, based on the branding and where he's positioned at on the game and
99.
marketing, he's a 99. He's a 99. And I'm not going to argue against that, but I feel like it works like if you have a player that's so just because you got to think like there's going to be a lot of players because there's so many, like the difference between the best player on a defense and the worst player on a defense, like a freshman, like didn't they say that? Like we might have some guys who overalls are like way below like what the lowest overalls in like Madden's are, for example, because there's such a big gap, right? So I feel like in the other direction, like Colorado, like I don't know who their second best player is on defense, to be honest with you.
I couldn't tell you.
But I have to assume Travis Hunter is by far head and shoulders over that next person. And so maybe his individual ranking is just outweighing it so much that that's how he sneaked into the top 25. But if we were going off performance of last year, there's just no way. There's no way. And not even just them, but like even USC, for example, is even higher on that list. How is USC? USC is ranked 16 on this defense list. There's just no way. There's no way.
Yeah, somebody said on Twitter, it's like Big Game Boomer got the opportunity to put his rankings on a sheet of paper. And again, I know people are upset with EA. Like, everybody was loving EA Sports for the last year, especially 2 months.
EA Sports.
Well, with the college football game specifically, they were, obviously all the love was getting pushed to them, and then they put out these rankings, and it was automatically EA Sports doesn't know anything. Listen, I know we're going to talk about, real life and quarterback, but again, I think they're going to fix it. This is just going to be what you see on day one of the game. It's the rankings you're going to get.
It's day one installs, baby. Day one installs.
The minute Colorado takes the field and teams are putting up 40 on them, they're not going to stay the same overall. Teams will fluctuate. I think that's what's people are really excited about the game and excited to see because they are going to update it like as the season goes along. If a cool play gets put into the game, they'll put it in for that specific team. So it's exciting to see that.
Right, because I was going to say, like, there's even some other offenses that were like snubbed out, and I don't know if this is Big 12 bias or I'm just high on them, but like I feel like Iowa State has a sneaky good offense. Like, two very good NFL receivers. I like Rocco Becht a lot, so I like Iowa State's offense. Even like West Virginia, for example. Surprised I didn't see them here because Garrett Green's been getting.
Oklahoma State was one of the top offenses in the country last year.
Right, and they're not on the offensive power rankings, are they, for the top 25? And that's interesting because Ollie Gordon, again, from what you're top seeing from the marketing, he seems like he's like one of those 97 to 99 overall players. So
I know
the surprises, but at least UCF made it in there.
No, exactly. That's all I care about. The Big 12, and that's something. Like, if you look, they tweeted out, when NCAA tweeted out the top offenses or something like that. They have 5 out of the top 25 top offenses, and 4, again, that's a little sus, 4 out of the top 25 defenses in the game. So again, take that for what you will. Maybe we just talked a little too long on NCAA College Football 25, but we are a mere couple weeks away, about 20-something days away from the game. But let's get into some real-life talk. I'm going to be honest, Nick. UCF's about to get a lot of commits in the next couple weeks. I mean, next week is basically going to be a show about all the commits we got within the last 7 days. Because you're going to get a lot of commitments on July 4th. You've got a potential commitment on the 28th, which is 28th, probably, I think today. We've got a guy potentially committing. I gotta relook at that, but I'm pretty sure there's a guy committing today or tomorrow. You have a lot of commitments happening within the next week. So next week's show is going to be basically a deep dive on all the commitments that UCF got over the last week. I was a little nervous last week. I'm going to be honest. It seemed like a lot of guys that I was pretty confident that were, probably UCF favorites, that they were favored to go to UCF. Seemed like stuff was changing. Malik Washington. I think I said Malik Cunningham earlier. That's my mistake.
That's the Patriots and you coming out.
Literally in my head. That's probably what happened. Malik Washington. Obviously, I said it would be tough because he's a Maryland kid. He lives in Maryland, grew up in Maryland. But I felt confident. It seemed like after his visit that Gus Malzahn and the glitz and glamour of it could entice him. Well, it doesn't look like that. It looks like he's going to be committing today, or he already did commit probably at 1:30 or 1 o'clock to go to Maryland. And there was just a couple other names like Max Buchanan. He committed to Miami. So again, there were some losses from UCF to where I was a little nervous over the last week of what I was hearing of like, oh, okay. In my head, I was thinking this class was going to be elite and really turn some heads, but maybe it's not. I don't think that anymore. You're going to say, again, this week is going to be the week of commitments for UCF, and you'll see them shoot up. You saw, obviously, there's going to be a decommitment coming up here very shortly. That's going to sting, but again, there's a long time until commitment day, so UCF's got a lot of time and ground to make up. But when we talk about quarterbacks, I said, listen, it's an open competition next year. It's an open competition. And there's not one guy right now that you can point at and say he's going to be the guy. Partially just because of age and who you have on the roster. You obviously bring in a Miami transfer, and there's a lot of moving parts. But a couple days ago, Nick, and I'm going to give credit to Stephen Leonard, obviously, friend of the show. We love Stephen here. He had a series of tweets basically implying about a certain quarterback in the 2026 class, kind of insinuating that he's looking to potentially be a UCF Knight. Now, again, this is speculation. He is not committed to UCF. He has not announced anything online. But Landon Duckworth, top 10 quarterback in the 2026 class, originally committed to South Carolina. And if you just, again, first of all, for anybody that UCF's interested in, I implore you guys to go watch tape, but 6'3", 190 pounds from Jackson, Alabama. And again, he's a top 100 recruit in 2026, top 10 quarterback. He's the best, in my opinion, for next year's class, specifically the best dual threat quarterback out there. And again, Stephen Leonard had a multitude of tweets about it. Obviously, UCF has a commitment from his wide receiver, Kean Chapman. So again, that can help. There's a lot of guys that UCF is probably going to go after in that Alabama area that is teammates with him. But Stephen Leonard is highly, and many others. And so I have also heard this as well. After I saw that, I reached out to some people, and it seems like, Nick, UCF could be getting their highest quarterback prospect of all time. So obviously seems like you're not going to get 2025, and who knows, Duckworth could easily reclassified at 25. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure he'll probably stick with this 2026, and he's not committed to UCF yet. So again, we have no idea. But if this were to happen, Nick, give your take, and obviously we'll talk about it as the months lead on, but give your take as you're hearing this information and what it would mean for the program and kind of how big it would be for a top 10 quarterback in any class to commit to UCF.
I mean, that's everything, right? I mean, it feels like every year they seem to get like, okay, this year now is their highest overall quarterback that they've landed. And then the next year, this year is the highest overall quarterback they've landed. Like, I think that's starting to become a trend, and certainly a good one. I think the offense clearly favors the quarterback position if you can find the right one that fits the system. And it seems like Duckworth obviously would fit that profile. And, the fact that he decommitted from South Carolina and everything at the timing that he did, and clearly UCF, I think it was UCF, TCU, and Florida maybe was the other one, was that he was in like his little Final Four, I believe. So at the very least, you got a shot. At the very least, you got a shot for a top one. I mean, you said top 10 quarterback, top 150 player overall in his entire class. So that would certainly be a big deal. And it just sort of emphasizes it's gonna affect the quarterback. If he signs with UCF, clearly it's going to affect the quarterback room they have now, because like we've been saying, UCF is starting to build a little bit of a roster there at the quarterback position. And we're expecting at least one or two guys in the next couple of years to probably exit that room. In fact, I'm a little surprised we didn't see anybody leave this cycle, to be honest with you. I really am. But, I love the competition factor. And maybe that's what it is that these guys still look at, okay, well, once KJ Jefferson leaves, which is going to be after this year, pretty much is wide open. And as we've been saying, eventually they're going to have to try to, I think, develop a quarterback that they recruit. And I think that's the way you're going to have to go. So maybe that's why you haven't seen any movement in these guys, because they view it as a true competition after, and then you'll see movement. But I definitely think if they land Duckworth, I think that's a calling that, hey, this is the quarterback of the future.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if you look at it, obviously you have E.J. Colson. That's a name that everybody was really excited for. Ja'Cory Brown coming from Miami, who many assume is just going to be the starter next year, given the experience he has. You have Dylan Risk, who nobody's really forgotten about. It was kind of like that first quarterback that really committed to Gus, Riley Trujillo. So, again, we talked about it, and again, it's going to really open up past this season about who's going to take that step to be the next guy. And again, we're not going to know about it until probably summer of next year, or hell, even fall of next season, right? But when you have a guy, and again, like the 2026 class is far. The 2026 class, unless Duckworth reclassifies and comes in the 2025 class, a lot can happen. He can commit to UCF and then decommit. He can, commit somewhere else. Like, who knows, right? But the fact of the matter is, with a guy of that type of talent, you could make the argument year one starter, year two starter, with how UCF would go after a guy like that. And again, there's a lot of questions surrounding the quarterbacks and who's going to make that jump and who's going to take that step. There's just a lot of things that need to be answered in a year. And luckily UCF has that time because you have a starter in KJ Jefferson.
Right. And to put in perspective too, of Duckworth, like if you look at the top other quarterbacks in that class, like we're talking quarterbacks that are committed to Georgia, Texas, Florida State, Oklahoma, Penn State, Michigan, Florida, Notre Dame, and then it goes Duckworth. Like that's where UCF would be in that sort of caliber of quarterback, just to put it in more perspective. And I think there's going to be other big programs clearly that are going to be going after him. So, including some schools probably in your own state. So,
well, and I'm still, again, what shocked me was I said the 2026 quarterback class is the one that UCF needs to go all in for, because you had three top quarterbacks from the Orlando area. Darion Coleman, you had Brady Hart, and Noah Grubbs. You had three Orlando guys that are in the top 10 of the 2026 class, and you didn't land any of them. I mean, all three of them committed elsewhere, and that hurts. But if, again, all that matters is if you get one of them. So if you get a top 10 guy that's from Alabama, not from Florida, but if you get him to commit to UCF, you technically did what you were supposed to do. You got a top 10 guy.
Right.
And not a lot of teams can say that. So we'll see how it all shakes out. A lot of time. And again, I don't know if he's going to reclassify. We have no idea. He hasn't committed to UCF yet. I'm sure he's going to take his time. But the rumors surrounding him and the heat surrounding the UCF and Duckworth idea is pretty exciting, and a really exciting time to be talking, UCF recruiting, and again, to potentially get a guy like that. All right, Nick, any final thoughts? Again, shortest episode in a while. So listen, I'll take it. Next week's not going to be short. We're going to have a lot of guys to talk about, but kind of give your final thoughts on this, again, condensed Charge On episode.
This is the first time I think we actually went in saying, okay, we're probably going to, we're going to talk about a couple things and get out. It's the first time we've actually stuck to that. Like, there's every week we go by and we look and we're like, oh, wow, we did 40 minutes or whatever. So this is actually a first. So
2 months.
But no, it's just that time of the year where it's a little dead at the moment. So we're sort of, with baseball coming to an end on Monday, the entire athletic season came to an end. So we're kind of in limbo, but before you know it, what are we? We're 8 Sundays away from the NFL returning. So what does that mean? We're like, 7 Saturdays from college football being back? Just about
2 months.
So we're
2 months as of, UCF's first game is what, the 30th?
Yeah.
Or the 26th? 26th?
We are almost there. Just hold on just for a little longer, and we'll be back in the full swing.
29.
Back to 2 episodes a week.
Listen, I have something to talk about. Oh, I do have an announcement. I don't know. I don't think Brandon's formally announced it, but I'll announce it. For those of you who were fans of the podcast that I did over on the Zoneheads Orlando, the UCF report, I'm no longer doing that. Only sticking a charge on Brandon's rebranding the Zoneheads thing and what he wants to do with it. So Charge On is my baby. I've always been full Charge On and how we make it work. So, it worked out. No, I'm still doing stuff with Zoneheads for the Magic and stuff like that, but just didn't want, for those of you who do still listen to that, didn't want you guys being confused if on Tuesday you don't see episodes, but just thought I would put that out there. And again, for the giveaway, keep hitting the subscribe button, follow button. We've been 720 subscribers right now. Obviously still a long way to go until July 19th, but again, we've gone up a little bit here over the last week, so hopefully as we get closer and closer, you guys will just tell your friends, family, use whoever accounts you want to, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we want to get to 1,000, but at least if we can get to 850 by July 19th, we'll still be giving some stuff away, so that's exciting too. Everybody, that's going to do it. As always, please like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that you do. We greatly appreciate it. And again, as always, this has been Charge On, presented by Bet Online. We will see you next week.